What's going on, Soul Nation? Ginger Prime here, and many of you have been asking me to react to Bellular's impressions of Final Fantasy XIV. He's posted up several clips. I'll include all of them in the description of this video so you can go watch them uninterrupted without my commentary or thoughts. But because you guys have asked for this is why I am doing this kind of style content. Typically, we do a little bit different style content here. So for some reason, this is a video and you've never seen this channel, hello. You can welcome to consider subscribing and hitting the like button, but note that typically I don't do reaction style content. So if this is something you really enjoy, maybe check out the other content that I produce before you subscribe. Anyway, no judgment. We would love to have you, but we're going to go ahead and dive right into the content itself. And here we go. Reaction content, Ginger Prime Day. Turn up the volume. Make sure that the volume's coming across.
So I think the next thing to talk about is a game. It's another game. It's not World of Warcraft, but it is a game that I think a lot of World of Warcraft players have not been able to ignore, that we kind of can't ignore in a way.
Yeah. Don't ignore Final Fantasy. So just to catch anybody up who might not be well, Bellular, fantastic content creator, runs a couple channels, also game studio. Honestly, I really enjoy his content. It's got a great name, the same name as my son, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, so I don't know what he's going to talk about here, but at the core of it, he's playing Final Fantasy XIV. We've also seen a huge exodus from from WoW to Final Fantasy and probably other games, but Final Fantasy being a big aspect of what I love and enjoy. So anyway, just a little context.
Give me that, Michael.
It may just be Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers. Might just be that.
All right. Well, we're getting to this much earlier than I expected. Okay.
Yeah, so, all right.
Yes.
I'm going to kick it off with my thoughts and impressions so far. I have properly played the game for like 4 or 5 hours. To put it this way, I'm like level 19. I have just left Gridania. That's where my character...
Great starting city. Honestly, I would have picked Gridania if hadn't 2.0 put me as a Arcanist, Summoner, Scholar on Limsa. But in 1.0, that's where I started. And don't regret it.
Sure is. So I did like the little, the initial arc, starting off as an archer.
Yep.
Okay.
So
good choice for starting class. By the way, gets you a lot of mobility, not a lot of complexity with the skills. So anyway, sorry.
I have a few different thoughts. I guess the first thing I want to talk about is look and feel.
Yeah.
Immediately, Final Fantasy XIV does not feel great if you're used to World of Warcraft because you have acceleration on the character movement, right? So you hit the W key in WoW, your character goes psh, instantly. You do it in Final Fantasy, there's a little curve. There's like a ramp up to your speed.
There used to be, there used to be a ramp up to your speed when playing in 1.0. There was an acceleration kind of perspective, especially with the animation. So wondering if that's more animation based. Anyway,
that, or at least it feels like
it's
that.
the animation,
maybe?
Not speed.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
There's something about it. It just doesn't feel as snappy and reactive as WoW does to me.
It's the thing where you will figure that out very quickly if you go in and start like tapping A and D repeatedly, or if you go to a fight. I'm pretty sure there's literally zero acceleration.
Interesting.
Because I've never felt it.
So just the animation then.
Yeah, it's just the animation.
Okay, I guess I'm sensitive to that. Hotkeys.
Yep.
Doesn't feel as tight as WoW.
It's not even close.
Yeah. So I think that's something. If they could fix that up,
okay, yeah,
it would be good.
So this is the thing, right? It's because of how the engine works. It's because of it all. I mean, you're completely correct, but everything is all of like the engine stuff running underneath is impeccable. Essentially, when you hit a button, it does register. It's just the animation, it going and come down.
Yeah, that's it.
And all that stuff means that it can be really awkward. But it is a good experience when you get into fights, and like really tight fights don't feel sloppy.
Yeah.
But actually looking at it feels it.
As I've got.
So just kind of talk about this. Like as a longtime player of this game, I don't understand that aspect. I've played a WoW a little bit and quit. Just isn't my kind of game. So if you're a WoW refugee or you're a WoW hardcore player, note that I don't necessarily understand kind of this issue. But I'm really happy, and I'm not an expert on his clips channel, so I'm going to say this gentleman right here, phenomenal. I'm really glad they're there to provide this level of detail complex. As a controller player, that also is something that might set me a little bit different from what they're talking about.
got more abilities and went through my rotation a few more times, it's feeling better to me now.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing is look. How does the game look? And that is an interesting one because they have one of the worst anti-aliasing problems I have seen. The only AA that's available is FXAA, and that basically just looks like a Vaseline smear on top of the game. So it looks terrible with FXA, with that on.
Yep.
And without it, I mean, the aliasing is just kind of insane. I think that their shadows, I think it's the color temperature of their shadows, actually, that I don't like. It's like the shadows are almost uniformly quite gray, and they're in like... Yeah, I feel like there should be more of a color cast to their shadows. So there's been like a whole bunch of technical and compositional issues that I've had with the starting content of the game that they do take a little bit to get over. And I think it immediately looks worse than World of Warcraft does because, wow.
I can't speak to the anti-aliasing and some of the things that they're talking about. And this is just me. The reason I'm not going to speak to it is I think I have an inherent bias towards Final Fantasy. I think when we look at World of Warcraft, very stylized, I would not prefer that. But when you have that kind of model within WoW, it gives you a lot of flexibility. Even though 14 is fantasy, it feels like it's more grounded into reality. So the technical aspects are interesting. It's an interesting choice to start with that, because if I was just listening to him talk about that, that doesn't have an impact on my experience, but maybe I'm just looking at it from a whole different perspective. Anyway, we'll continue.
Is so stylized.
Okay, cool.
And what that basically means is in FF, I think you basically need to go and get reshade or something like that to get a good AA implementation.
Yeah, I think it's
one of the things I've seen that talked about, and even within even 11, that I think there's a movement within the community, and there is a reshade aspect to it. I'm getting a text message. We're filming it live. Is that there are definitely some things that I think a lot of people enjoy that add a lot to the game, and that's why I think that a lot of the community either believe it would be easy for them to implement or hope that they continue to implement and improve on the engine and the graphics themselves.
The actual software is Reshade. I think there's Stormshade and Gshade, which I think are pre-configured ones designed for FF by people. I've not tried them yet because I have a 4K monitor and
I think they're also against
my
terms.
PC, so I
want
to play at 4K, which means I have graphics settings low all the time. But
it's a tricky thing where I actually feel like I really like a lot of their compositions, like their levels. They feel really good to run around in.
Yeah.
But I think the quality that is there is, at least in the A Realm Reborn stuff that I've seen so far, which is basically just Gridania, it's kind of betrayed by technical engine problems that some of them do persist that I've seen from your gameplay of Shadowbringers content, and that is kind of unfortunate. Now, that said, once I actually got through all of those initial things where the game didn't feel as snappy as WoW, it didn't look as crisp and stylized as WoW, I actually started to get into things. Oddly enough, that's where it started to humongously pick up the pace and be interesting.
I did not expect this.
So I'm trying to think of what to do first. The 2.5 second GCD.
Yep.
Don't mind.
Oh, all right.
It didn't actually piss me off that much.
We hear about that all the time. 14 is slow at the start. And yeah, we've advocated that we want more off the global cooldowns brought into the core gameplay earlier, especially for new players. That way you feel like you've got a little bit more to do. But beyond that avocation, that's always going to be a design decision and kind of a call by the developers. Now, that all being said, it gets much faster. Like when you go look at somebody weaving in skills and abilities, especially at level 80, it's like, no, that the GCD where it's at does make the combat feel really good, especially as you're weaving in skills. Maybe it varies by job to job, but at the end of the day, that is what it is.
And I have played on your higher level bard. So having the higher GCD, but after, whatever level your bard was.
Yeah, that was only 50
so he has played on a higher level.
You're like level 50 or 60 bard.
Yeah, that's actually like an interesting point, because one of the things that we like when it gets into the tricky conversation of jumping, it would be really cool to be like, okay, this is what it's going to feel like late. Like you start, and as soon as like, hey, let's just let them touch on some level 80 abilities, and then kind of like, okay, that's where you're working to. It's a complex problem to solve. And I think in some degrees we've seen it, but there are downsides to solving just giving them the abilities, and that's something where I've seen people complain about Boja. Like, people just don't know how to learn how to play their job. Same thing with Palace of the Dead. You do get to level up quicker and experience the job at a higher level while you're leveling, so that is a pathway and an option, but there's also downsides in that regard. Anyway.
Yeah, the GCD doesn't feel mega great, but you're actually weaving instant castings in between that.
Yeah.
And I think with the design of so many of the rotations, like I've been looking at the Samurai one, because basically I'm only playing an Archer / Bard until 50, and then I think I want to go Samurai with it. I feel like it should all work quite well. So on the gameplay front, I'm actually quite happy looking at the top end gameplay that I've seen. It also, like, just that they look like in-depth, interesting rotations.
I really wish we had time today to let you play like one of the Eden normal fights on my Bard, because you would have loved it.
Yeah.
You also would have died instantly.
So I guess then to move into experience, what happens whenever the anti-aliasing and the shadows and, you know, it feeling a little bit clunky at times.
Yeah.
Once you're through that, you have music that thus far I love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
All right.
love.
Yeah. Good choice.
Yes. It
Right
definitely,
words.
at least the Gridania stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I've loved the music. And like just the vibe, the ambience, I think has been really nice, really successful. It feels cozy, basically.
Gridania specifically is gorgeous. That.
Yeah, so I've actually liked my Gridania experience quite a bit. That's been quite good. Narrative then is funny because I'm playing through A Realm Reborn, which everybody says is by far the worst content that this game has.
Yeah.
And I think if this game started off at the quality level that Shadowbringer seems to be, we would have a very different conversation right now, and I think
Yeah,
WoW would be in a lot more trouble.
Yeah.
We'll be
Because
dead.
I
100%.
think
Not dead.
this game
That's
likely has a
personal.
large problem with attracting new players because they have to get through
Yeah.
the content of A Realm Reborn, and you know, people might suggest a boost to somebody, but it feels a bit weird to buy a game and then boost through the content. That
Yeah.
does feel bizarre.
Yeah.
See, I was always thinking, okay, maybe you could kind of do some like ARR boost Start Heavensward, and that might be good. But after playing Shadowbringers, I would say literally, if you boost, you are ruining the game for yourself.
Yeah,
100%.
so yeah, that's what I've heard. And what I found so far as I've played the game, you know, actually paying attention to the quest text, I could see the little, you know, I was doing these seemingly disparate things helping people out in the forests of Gridania, but they all came together actually really quite satisfyingly.
Yeah.
And they came together in a way where I actually learned more about the world,
Yeah.
more about the lore and the world building. And I really liked how I learned more about the big picture of things by doing small scale things in the world that came together to be more than the sum of their parts.
That's one of the things I've definitely appreciated about the game, especially just even the localization team and how sometimes even little things just kind of add up. And so paying attention to that gives you a lot more context. But at the same time, somebody asked me the other day, like, do I really have to read all of this text? Do I really have to do that? And I was like, well, you know, honestly, if you really want to experience a story and you're not necessarily as interested in every little bit of lore today, you've got New Game Plus to jump back and forth. But you can always just focus in on the quest headers that actually have an image. If you look at the quests that have art associated to them that then are either voice acted, but even if they aren't voice acted, if you focus in on kind of those key milestone quests, you're gonna get enough that I think will help get you into the world as well. So above and beyond, I definitely understand and agree with what they're talking about.
So that led to a situation with me where I actually didn't mind the whole talk to this NPC, run over there, talk to that NPC, run over there, because I was starting to get engaged and trying to work out like the little mystery that was going on. And there's another thing there where the amount of XP that you get for those talkie quests is not trivial.
Not even, no.
So you actually feel completely fine to do those talkie quests because the game rewards you appropriately, which makes sense because the narrative that is covered in those quests is important narrative. So you get you get a
I never thought about it that way.
Somebody said, most important question, are you a cat girl? Yes, I think I'm a sun cat girl. Maybe moon
yes,
cat girl.
you're keeper
I
of the
don't
sun.
know.
Keeper of the sun, Mikote.
Yeah.
This guy is amazing.
That's I was thinking of going for like a dragon or something, but I could not make a character on Zodiark, so I had to go with an old, basically meme Catgirl character that I created and did not touch at all. But you know what? I'm actually having fun thus far. Some other things, then, I guess, that I've liked. The hunting log system that kind of promote basically.
I love the hunting log system, and I wish that they would continue to expand on it. And it morphs into kind of the hunts system, but I always like that personal kind of log. And it just kind of exists for 50.
You go in, well, there's like 5 levels of the hunting log. Each one has got, basically it's just kill 4 of this mob. We will give you a little bonus of XP. Do all of that to complete 1 level of the hunting log. You get a larger bonus chunk of XP. And all it basically means is when you're running through the genre, like, oh, that mob there, I need that for my hunting log. Kill it, done. And it's just like, that's something you could transplant into WoW and it would actually be quite cool and fun. No, I mean, it's not a big thing. It's just that it adds you, it's just like a little thing to be like, oh yeah, it's a nice little thing I can do as I level.
Also, that's
little things add up to big things in that regards. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have the biggest, grandest systems, but sometimes these little supporting systems build upon themselves. And it's interesting to see where the hunts go. And if you aren't doing hunts, especially in the later game after ARR, it's a really good chunk of experience. And if you're waiting for a queue, highly recommend it.
So that's in a Realm Reborn thing that like that goes away at 50. Like it doesn't go on past 50. It's purely for like 2.x or whatever. And then they change it with more specific. There are big monsters out in the world that spawn every couple of days. Go do this with a group of people.
That's cooler for
which is very different.
Hitting end game though.
It's extremely different and it replaces it. But the point is it's still there, so you can still do it. And it does. Honestly, I honestly think a lot of the 2.0 world, I actually learned the names of like very specific places just because I've done the hunting log on so many different like classes now. So I have every job at least 30, and then only one up at 80. But it's just I've done all of the early hunting log stuff, so I'm just going, oh, there we go. Like I know, like you say, where it's like. Well, I'm trying. Now that I can't think of any examples. Now that I've put myself on the spot, helpfully, but I'm just like, oh yeah, I have a rough idea where that is. I can click the map, click the teleport, go there.
I guess actually that's another thing. Teleport. This is a game you just teleport over as long as you unlock the Aether or whatever shard in a zone, you click on it, you pay some gil, you teleport there. So handy. It doesn't destroy the world or the story or anything like that. It works in this game. It works in Guild Wars 2. So that's something worth thinking about. But there is a cheaper Chocobo taxi system you can use as well. So that was interesting. Fates.
Okay.
Fates. There are.
Now, on the Aetherite, like, I do appreciate that system, especially because even still, you find yourself going to a location, etc. And, man, I haven't used a Chocobo Porter since ARR, but anyway.
Our fates are basically just like little zone events. And, I mean, there were zone events while I was leveling up in a Realm Reborn content. That is above Shadowlands leveling content.
Yeah.
Like, why is that not there?
Yeah.
So when I played through part of Shadowlands, I eventually gave up. And I just couldn't do it. I was playing solo alone, really didn't see anybody. And I didn't find that experience enjoyable. But I felt like also the story was so phased, and maybe that's why I was seeing it. You know, like only people who are on my phase of that story were happening. And in this case, like that's why I do prefer I prefer seeing people in the open world, and I think the phasing allows for them to tell the story of the zone changing. But I think in the end, it doesn't necessarily do him any favors. So it's interesting to see that he's enjoying the Fate system, which I find enjoyable, and I would love as a veteran player for them to expand on it more. And I think that's where Guild Wars 2 does a really good job at having kind of fates impact the world, and Final Fantasy XIV as some of those, but it's not as, I guess, bigger impactful, so to speak.
It's just a case of it was put there in the start and it keeps going, and because you can play every job on a character, people will just go, oh yeah, I've got rogue at like level 2, I might as well play a little bit.
Another thing too, that I can play different jobs on my same character. That's great, because like I'm doing this character, it is an archer, it will turn into a bard, I'm going to hit level 50, unlock samurai, probably go over to that. Great, that's really cool, as I really like that. So there's that. There's the fates, which I really like.
So a lot of people seem to really enjoy that aspect of playing Final Fantasy, and I've long enjoyed that. Coming from 11 and into this one, it is pretty impactful. And seeing that we're at 20 minutes so far at the recording, and this next video is 17 minutes long, what I'm thinking of doing here in real time is go ahead and just we'll wrap this video up as a video, and that way we don't end up having like an hour-long reaction video itself. Maybe that's the right choice or the wrong choice, I don't know. But if you guys are interested, what I'll do is I'll film these all as separate videos. Let me check video number 3 real quick, and oh, that's just 7 minutes. So what we'll do is this one was 11 minutes and it took us 20 minutes to get through it. I'm probably going to bundle these two together. I really did put a lot of thought into how we should do it. So having taken a moment, and we forgive the jump cut there, I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, we're going to do the last 2 videos kind of as one video reaction, unless obviously 7 minutes ended up being another 20 minutes. Like there's a lot to break down there. So for you guys who are watching this, if you've made it this far, sound off in the comments below. Go reaction hype. I don't know. We'll just go with that. And thanks so much for being here. I'll also try, and once those videos are done, I'll include links in the description of this video, so that way you can kind of just jump from one to the next if you're interested in the thorough connectivity of the conversation itself. But anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. Like, favorite, subscribe, share, clip. If you guys see the clip option in the on the bottom, if there's anything that stood out to you, I'd love to see what clips you guys make of these videos themselves. But that's going to wrap it up, guys. Thanks to all the people who hit that join button over here on the membership. But if you guys are interested, you always want to support us for free. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can always check out the Twitch link, and you can go drop a Prime sub over there on Twitch. We do appreciate the support. We love you guys very much. And maybe Chris and I will sit down later today and kind of do a summary of everything that we're seeing here in this case. So keep it locked to Work to Game, to Ginger Prime, Gaming Kinda, and all the other places that you can find our content. Anyway, guys, see you in our next video, which should probably be here in a couple of minutes, whenever I finish reacting and uploading and going from there. So thanks for watching. Love your faces, and we'll see you next time.